I've started way more projects than I can count. Some of them were great ideas, some had real potential, but the vast majority of them fizzled out. And for a long time, I blamed myself. I was lazy or undisciplined or distracted, or maybe I just liked starting things more than finishing them. Most people think the ability to finish what they start comes from things like willpower or motivation or discipline. And they're not wrong, consistency is critical. But just knowing that consistency is critical doesn't really help. You have to know how to hold on to it long enough to actually finish something and make it successful. And that's where most people get stuck. I used to think I needed more focus, more discipline, a better routine, maybe one more productivity app I'd open once and never use again. But those were just temporary fixes for something I didn't fully understand yet. And once I finally understood what was stopping me from being consistent, basically everything changed. About a decade ago, I decided to get serious about reselling. I was watching YouTube videos like you are right now, I was building my store, figuring out the numbers, and for a while I really stuck with it. I even had a spreadsheet. That's how you know I'm in business. I was doing all the, quote, right things. I was thrifting, listing, tracking profits, and for a couple months I was consistent and things were going pretty well. But then I missed a day, and then a few more, and eventually I just stopped showing up almost entirely. No dramatic decision, just drift. I've seen this same pattern in so many people who try to build something that matters to them. They don't quit because it's hard, they quit because something deeper under the surface gives out. And it's not discipline or motivation or consistency, it's what makes that stuff possible in the first place. If consistency is what gets you to the finish line, you need to understand what actually powers it. You can build good habits, you can set goals, you can get organized, you can color code your Google Calendar into oblivion. But if you don't believe in the thing you're building, none of that matters. Because consistency isn't just a habit, it's evidence of faith. Not faith in the religious sense, but in the idea that your effort is actually leading somewhere. In other words, you don't stay consistent with something you think is pointless. You stay consistent when you believe it's going to work, even if you can't prove it yet. Having faith means believing in something you can't yet prove. Humans do this all the time. It's what makes us uniquely human. Some of us believe in God, some believe in UFOs or ghosts or Bigfoot, or that things will just work out. Not necessarily because there's overwhelming evidence, but because there's something in us that wants it to be true. We want to live in a world where those things exist. And I get that. I have faith in a lot of things too. It's part of what makes life feel a little bit more meaningful and magical, more worth living. That future that you're working towards, the ideal version of your business or your life, isn't something you can prove either. You just have to trust that your effort is leading somewhere, kind of like trusting that Bigfoot is out there stumbling around in the forest. And for some of us, that kind of faith, the faith in ourselves and our projects and our direction, is the hardest to hold on to. But make no mistake, faith is not confidence. It's not certainty. Faith is showing up even when you don't feel sure. And your ability to be consistent depends on it. You can grind for a while, but if you don't have faith that it's going to work, if your belief in that ideal future starts to fade, so does your consistency. You hit a bump in the road, you slow down, you second guess, you drift. And suddenly you're not showing up anymore. Not because the work got harder, you can handle hard work, but because your faith got weaker. All of those problems you face along the way to realizing your ideal future, those are tests of your faith. Shit happens, you get a return, someone scams you. When it happens, that's the universe testing your faith. It's asking, how strong is your faith in this idea? If your faith is weak, you quit. If your faith is strong, you figure out how to keep marching forward. The thing is, faith doesn't just show up because you want it to. You have to build it and nurture it like a little garden. But how to do that isn't always obvious. Let me tell you a story. I didn't start reselling with some big goal in mind. It was just something I enjoyed. The hunt, the flip, the little hit of profit, it was fun. And for a while, that was enough. But eventually, the novelty wore off. I still loved the hunt, I was still making sales and still listing here and there, but it didn't feel like I was really going anywhere with it. The consistency just wasn't there. That's when I started asking myself, why am I even doing this in the first place? I loved doing it, sure, but that alone wasn't enough to keep me consistent. There was something deeper there. I also loved to travel. I had a growing family, and it turns out travel's pretty expensive these days. It was becoming difficult to afford, so my vision became simple: make enough money on the side to fund trips with my family so that I didn't have to dip into savings. That gave the work purpose. Reselling was meant to fund our travel. Suddenly, I wasn't just flipping stuff randomly for extra cash. I was building something that supported a life that I didn't have yet and couldn't prove, but wanted nonetheless. It's important to note I didn't do any of this on purpose. At the time, I didn't know what I know now. I was literally just daydreaming, thinking about all the places my family and I would go someday as I went through those mundane tasks of listing and shipping every day. What I didn't realize at the time was that this daily habit of revisiting that future in my head over and over again wasn't just daydreaming. It was something deeper. I was embodying the life that I wanted before it existed. I wasn't just thinking about what I wanted, I was living in that future. And that's what turned vision into faith. You see, you need a clear vision for what you want, something that excites you, and you need to embody that vision every single day. Not once, not in theory, but in the way you show up in everything you do. Having a clear picture of where you want to go, combined with an unwavering faith that you'll eventually get there, is what produces the consistency required to achieve anything meaningful. I wish I could say I figured that out deliberately, but I didn't. I backed my way into it, and I'm glad I did, because it worked. Over the last decade, we've been able to travel to the UK, Mexico, Canada, Dominican Republic, Belgium, France, Hong Kong, Disney World 3 times, and more than 20 different states. And that's all been paid for by a part-time reselling business built around a clear vision, faith, and consistent effort. And this is still the vision I use to this day to keep my part-time reselling business humming along. Next week, we're going to Wisconsin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jack Douglas with another armchair vacation in America. The Chippewa Indians called it Meskusing. Today, some people call it America's Dairyland. But no matter what name we give it, Wisconsin offers a countryside of rolling green hills.
And it's the same exact story with this YouTube channel. For a long time, I was making videos that basically nobody watched. I mean, I love making videos, but that wasn't a strong enough vision. I was inconsistent. I wasn't seeing any meaningful results. I was constantly stopping and restarting. I had no real strategy. I was just randomly publishing videos I thought might work, which were really just copies of what other people were doing. But then I stopped to ask myself what I actually wanted. Why was I doing this in the first place? And once I got honest with myself, the answer was clear. I liked helping people. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. When I made a video that helped someone, it made me feel good. And it helped me understand that maybe I actually had something of value to share. I started to imagine what it would feel like to be able to help a lot of different people. I'd picture the kind of comments I might get, or the problems I could help solve, the kind of impact it might have. That vision became something I carried with me, and I started to embody it just like I had with reselling and travel. I thought about it when I planned videos, when I outlined, when I hit record. I wasn't just uploading, I was already living like someone who had something worth saying that helped a ton of people. And that shift gave me direction, it gave me purpose, and it made me decide to take YouTube seriously. I started making every decision with that vision in mind. And as a result, my focus got tighter. The content started to resonate with people. The channel began to grow. I started getting more and more comments from people thanking me for helping them, which strengthened my faith and helped me build the consistency necessary to grow a successful YouTube channel. And it worked. Millions of people have watched my videos. I get so many messages every single day from people thanking me for what I've shared, telling me what they were able to achieve, how they were able to bridge the gap between jobs or quit a career they hated, retire earlier than expected, or even put food on the table. That vision that I had to help people build freedom through reselling became real. And then Flipwise. I had been using spreadsheets to manage my reselling business for years, and I was always annoyed by how much work it took to keep them updated, especially as my eBay store grew. It was like I was being punished with more tedious work the more successful I got. Before Flipwise existed, I had a vision in my head, an automated tool that made reselling feel less chaotic, where your numbers made sense, something that could act as a second brain for resellers. That was the core idea, the vision that I kept coming back to, and I could see it clearly, not just like what it would do, but how it would feel to use it. I imagined how it would feel to open it up in the morning and know exactly where my business stood. I imagined other sellers feeling that same sense of relief. And eventually I started embodying that future in the same way I had with reselling and with YouTube. I thought about it when I was writing user stories, when I was working through wireframes and prototypes. I wasn't just building a tool, I was operating like it already existed. And even when the first version was clunky, when barely anyone was using it, we kept going. Because even though we couldn't prove it, we had faith in that that future. And that faith is what brought the consistency necessary to turn it into something real. It didn't happen overnight. We wrote the first lines of code over 6 months before anyone even knew it existed. We beta tested it with a small group of sellers for another 6 months before opening up for business. We worked on it for over a year in our spare time before it made any money at all. Last week, Flipwise celebrated its first year since launching publicly. We have thousands of sellers using it. It's evolved to be way more powerful than I ever imagined. We get messages every single day from members thanking us for making it. I was able to quit my day job, and it started with nothing more than a vision. But it became a reality because we had faith in that vision to keep us consistent and lead us through the tough times. That faith was tested over and over again by the universe, and it will continue to be tested. You will never stop being tested by the universe. It comes with the territory of doing meaningful things, but as long as you hold on to that faith, you continue to pass those tests. So that's how you build faith, with vision. That was the issue with my huge pile of failed projects of the past. I either didn't have a vision at all for those, or the vision was so vague that I couldn't bother being inspired by it. So now the question is, how do you create a vision that will actually inspire you? Alright, let's bring this all the way back down to earth. If you want to finish what you start, you need to be consistent. Easy enough. But consistency only exists when you have faith, and faith only shows up when you have a vision of the future that's strong enough to sustain it. That's where most people get stuck. They don't have a vision, they have ideas, maybe a goal or two. But a goal is something you write down and check off. A vision is something you live, it's something you embody. And I get it, the idea of a vision sounds lofty. People hear the word and think they need to stand on a mountaintop shouting into the wind about changing the world while that Ricola guy plays the big horn in the background. That's not what I mean. Your vision doesn't have to be poetic. It doesn't have to change the world. It just has to matter to you. That's the only requirement, that you actually want it. And here's the key. The how doesn't matter, at least not yet. You don't need a detailed plan. You don't need to reverse engineer your life from some perfect 10-year blueprint. Most people never get started with a real vision because they think they need all the steps figured out. But nobody knows how to do something hard before they do it. Everyone who builds something meaningful figures it out after they make the commitment, not before. Vision is not about certainty, it's about direction. And the only way to build faith in that direction is to start living like it's already happening. That's what it means to embody your vision. You don't say, I want a profitable reselling business that doesn't burn me out. You say, I run a profitable reselling business that doesn't burn me out. It doesn't matter that you don't have it yet, it only matters that you want it. You shift your language to the present tense. You stop describing where you want to be and start affirming where you're headed, like it's already real. Because when you say it that way, your brain starts to believe it. But here's the key that most people miss. You have to rehearse that vision a lot. And I know it sounds silly, but it's important because your brain takes cues from what you repeatedly tell it. It's the same way you learned anything, through repetition. Nobody learns anything by doing it once. You didn't become confident behind the wheel of a car by flipping through a manual one time. You became confident by getting in the car again and again until eventually it was second nature. But most people never give their vision that chance, if they have one at all in the first place. They may think about it once or twice and then move on. Meanwhile, they repeat their doubts on a loop. I always mess this up. I never stick with anything. My brain doesn't work that way. That's the identity that gets reinforced. Not because it's true, but because that's what was repeated, so it becomes true. It's like Bart Simpson at the chalkboard writing out his failures line after line as punishment. Punishment that does nothing but reinforce the behavior it was trying to correct in the first place. So here's the shift. If you want to become the kind of person who finishes, don't just write down a better future. Start thinking like it's already yours, over and over, every single day, until it feels familiar, until it feels second nature, until your actions start to catch up. So yeah, finishing what you start requires discipline. But discipline without vision is just like burnout in slow motion. The real challenge isn't sticking with the work. It's defining something you actually have faith in. Because once you have that, once your vision is clear and it's present and embodied, you don't need to force consistency. Faith does that hard work for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I have a few more like it. The first one is how complaining almost killed my reselling business, and how if you're not careful, it might kill yours too. Or this one on how small eBay sellers will make big money in 2025, which has nothing to do with algorithm tricks or better sourcing techniques. Instead, it's about how to have the right mindset for success. See you next time.